Guys, it's the Keychron Q5 Knob Edition. It's Keychron's newest keyboard with a 96% layout, gasket mount with a full CNC anodized aluminum build. And doesn't it just look amazing in this navy blue color? Now in terms of physical features, the Q5 is just like every other Q series keyboard from Keychron. You have the same bezel sizes, the same side profile, the same chamfered edges on the bottom, as well as the rubber feet, and we still have the Windows to Mac OS tactile switch on the back along with the USB-C port on the left side of the keyboard, so everything feels very similar. And as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's the direction Keychron is going, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now just to give you a small size comparison, here is the Keychron Q5 going against the new EpoMaker TH96. So the bezels actually take quite a bit of space, and here's also a 65% keyboard for reference. By the way, in my opinion, in 2022, I don't think anybody should be going for a 100% keyboard. This should be the biggest keyboard you should be getting because it has everything you need without any kind of bulk. All those secondary features in the middle, you don't have them, it's going to be all on the top right here, and this is going to be the best thing that you're going to get. Whether you're an office user or anyone who needs a numpad, the 96% keyboard is something that you need to get. Forget the 100% keyboard, guys. Like I said, it's everything you need in a smaller footprint, and that's what everyone needs on their desk setup. Just take all your essentials, shrink it down, and this is the keyboard that you get. Now let's take a look at the volume knob. It's completely made out of metal with a really nice texture on the side as well as a very nice smooth surface on top, and here you can see the mounting surface that goes onto the rotary encoder itself. It's stepped and it's also light enough to use with just one finger, and it also acts as a tactile mute button as well. Now moving on to the keycaps, this keyboard uses OSA profile PBT keycaps. The profile is a mix of OEM height and the roundedness of an SA profile keycap, and they're pretty nice to use, with decent double shot properties and they won't shine over time. And on the F row we have all our labels for secondary functions for Mac OS, and it's also going to work with Windows as long as you remap the same functions there. The default home row has Mac OS keys, but you can easily replace them with the provided Windows keycaps. Now I love the way the alphas look on this keycap set, but the one thing that rubs me the wrong way are those stabilizer long keys. Like, what kind of font is that? It just doesn't match the aesthetic of the keycap set. Thankfully, Keychron sells their own keycaps too, like this white, gray, and blue set, and it has all the necessary keycaps to be compatible from 60% to 98% keyboards. When you buy the Q5 fully assembled, you get the option of Gateron Pro switches, and here we have the red linear switches. What's great about these switches is that they're pre-lubed, which means you get smoothness right out of the box without having to spend lots of time lubing every single switch. But I will say that the springs are still dry, so if you ever hear any kind of pingy noise, you'll definitely have to go back into those switches and re-lube those springs. And these switches are on top of a hot swappable south-facing socket board, which means you can choose all kinds of switches to use on this board as long as it's not optical, and you can also use cherry profile keycaps. Also, the Q5 is using Keychron's all-new screw-in stabilizers, which are supposed to be more stable and less rattly. You can also replace them with cherry or Durox screw-in stabilizers. As for RGB lighting, it's the industry standard, so you have lots of colors, lots of effects, and you can change every single one of them to your personal liking, and it looks awesome. As for pricing, you've got 4 options. You've got the regular version and the knob version. The bare bones kit of the regular version is $165, while the fully assembled kit is $185, while the knob version is just $10 more, with the bare bones being $175 and the fully assembled kit being $195, and you also get an ISO layout available as well. And I gotta say, this pricing is pretty reasonable considering what you're getting and comparing it to the other options on the market. As for the sound test, I gotta say this keyboard sounds pretty damn good right out of the box, and what surprised me the most was the spacebar stabilizer because it had zero rattle whatsoever, and that is just an amazing feeling. However, the rest of the stabilized keys are quite rattly, so if you want them to sound good, you'll definitely have to put some extra lube into it. The spacebar is what's pressed the most on a keyboard, and if that sounds good, that's all that really matters to me. Because for me personally, if I buy a stock keyboard and the spacebar sounds absolutely amazing, the rest of the keys don't matter to me because I can easily just lube them up and make them sound better. But if we were to take the newcomer perspective, coming from a membrane keyboard or a crappy mechanical keyboard, what's the thing that differentiates a cheap, crappy from a good and expensive keyboard? And that's going to be the sound of that spacebar. That initial sound that they hear when typing with a clean spacebar is what is going to make them gravitate towards that particular keyboard. And in this case, the Q5 here does not disappoint, and it's definitely something that would be great for any newcomers because that spacebar is just so damn clean. I will say that the keyboard sounds slightly more hollow than I would like, but that's easily fixable with a force break mod, a tape mod, or even a polyfill mod just to make the keyboard sound a little more solid. But of course, the switches can also be the reason for the hollowness, because if the springs aren't lubed properly, if they're crunchy, that's going to add to the hollowness sound. So if you have switches that don't have that kind of crunchiness, you won't have an issue with hollowness. And to be honest, straight out of the box, the Q5 with these Gateron Pro red switches, they sound pretty good, and the hollowness isn't as obvious as on camera when I'm recording the sound test. And speaking of making the keyboard more solid, the physical customizability of the Q5 is the exact same as all other Q series keyboards from Keychron. So we still have all those hex screws that keep the keyboard together, and when we open up the keyboard we can still see the case foam, we can still see the PCB foam and the plate foam that all help this keyboard sound even more solid. You can also see that they added a bunch of extra rubber grommets all over the place to reduce the hollowness and pinginess of this keyboard just to make it more solid, so that there aren't any more complaints like we had in the original Q1 keyboard. The Q5 also has a sturdy connector cable between the USB-C port and the PCB to reduce the possibility of damage when opening up the keyboard. And thanks to QMK and VIA compatibility, you can remap this keyboard to however you like, whether it's the main keys or even the secondary features, and it's going to be compatible with Mac, Windows, and Linux OS. Overall, this keyboard is an absolute unit for anyone looking for peak productivity in a keyboard. You've got your F keys, your secondary functions, arrow keys, numpad, a volume wheel with a mute button, a Windows and Mac compatibility switch, south-facing hot swappable sockets, RGB lighting, CNC anodized aluminum case, QMK and VIA compatibility, all in the comfort of a 96% layout, and it's under $200. What more do you guys want for peak productivity? If you're looking for a flexible keyboard that can do it all, like office work or gaming at home, the Keychron Q5 will not disappoint and will fit all kinds of workspaces. But that's been it for the Keychron Q5. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about it and if you have any questions about this keyboard. Also in the description is where to buy it, and I'll also have a coupon code, and hopefully it works with new keyboards because that's been an issue in the past. But that's been it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.